record. I'll do the gallery view as well. Right, meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. There we go. Welcome everyone to the Friday Night Live. I apologise if I'm really echoey. I've got like a home office built in the garden, but it's just a big empty room at the moment. So it's, yes, apologies if the sound's not too good. I'll try and get something sorted out at some point. But yeah, and also stick something on the wall as well.
Oh, but they've pants all over the wall, mate.
Yeah, maybe keep strewn all over the bedroom floor.
Drawing pins, different colours with SD on the front. I'm sure I'm going to make a living one day out of these because everyone raves about them, but I haven't even got any.
So do they not exist? Is it just like an urban myth?
It's a myth in my head.
Oh, right. Wait till they come out inundated with Sober Dave.
Yeah, and I can send them out and then women can throw them at me.
Throw your own pants at you. Yeah.
Well, that, you know, be there. So like, a bit like Tom Jones, you know what I mean?
Mm. But instead of throwing their pants, they're throwing your pants.
Yeah, it's a double win.
Anyway. Them. Yeah. So how are you keeping anyway?
No, I'm all right, mate. We were just having a discussion before, weren't we, about us feeling rough without COVID. And I think you can hear I sound a bit like Bonnie Tyler or someone, you know, a bit croaky in that. And I felt rough for a few days, actually.
Yeah. So who in your household has got it then?
Ella.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, and we've both been double jabbed and had the booster as well.
Yeah, we've had all three. So during summertime, my eldest picked it up from school and came back, and then my wife picked it up, but me and my youngest didn't get it. But it was kind of different then because it was summer, so you could have all the windows and doors open most of the day. But this time of year, just sort of gave up on it, expected to get it, but I just keep testing negative, which is...
They're not that reliable, actually, those lateral flows.
No, because I think my wife had it and she was like testing negative and she had like all the symptoms. And when she went for the PCR, it was positive. So I think you do have to be kind of like, you have to be dripping with it for it to show up on one of the tests. Anyway, on to the next. Oh, you got the giggles now. I'm gonna have to carry this on my own.
Yeah.
So, what I thought we'd talk about today is Christmas. It being Christmas coming up, and I don't know. In my last live, I was talking about the idea of drinking at Christmas compared to the reality, because we always have these ideas of drinking at Christmas, you know, like champagne in the morning or Bucks Fizz and then mulled wine and red wine with dinner and, you know, sitting and chatting and laughing with your friends. Yeah. Actually, if that is a reality of Christmas, it's probably about the first half hour. And the rest of it's kind of, it gets extremely messy. But actually the reality, the big reality of drinking it at Christmas is just being asleep most of the afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
That's the majority of it.
Well, let's face it, Christmas Eve, you normally get absolutely hammered anyway, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And you've probably been drinking most of the day. Well, I have been. So I'd wake up.
It's the month as well, isn't it? You don't feel particularly good because you even if you're not drinking every day, there's so many things going on that you end up kind of, by the time you hit Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, you're well below par, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. And that's, we'll go on to maybe talk about dry Jan after, because there's a thing I'd like to talk about there as well. But yeah, and then you wake up 3-4 o'clock in the morning, as usual, hanging. Then all the kids start getting up really early and you're literally feeling like death. Then there's all that euphoria. And then someone says, oh, should we have a Bucks Fizz? Immediately you have that high from the Bucks Fizz because you're pouring a bit more champagne, well, or Prosecco in the glass. And then our brains would say, that's all right, we're on it again.
Mm.
That was certainly my brain. And I thought, well, I'll probably smell of alcohol anyway. So I'd already pre-planted beers and that everywhere.
Mm.
And by 11 o'clock, I was probably half cut again.
That's my memory of it, kind of getting up and drinking quite early on. And then because you're just constantly going, you're kind of like mid-morning, midday, you're kind of like, oh, I've gone a bit too far. But then it's not a problem because you kind of think, oh, well, I'm going to sit and eat soon. But then after you've eaten, I don't know about you, but I was wiped out after that. That was the end of Christmas, basically, because obviously after that.
Yeah, sorry, kids, but
Yeah.
I've left the building.
Gone.
I remember one year I just moved in actually, and George come over with his mate Adam, and it's like 11 in the morning, and I could tell Adam was a bit of a lad. But that sort of encouraged me. So I said to him, "Do you want a beer, mate?" He went, "Yeah, why not? I ain't driving," like that. By the time he left, which was an hour later, we probably had 6, 7 beers, you know, and strong ones. And then dinner, and I could see the looks I was getting, and I didn't blame her really. I was well gone before dinner. And then her dad and his partner come over. It was a disaster. I can't bear thinking about it now, that how I must have looked like when they walked in for Christmas. Have you got any memories that you're like, oh?
Yeah, because it was a long time ago, but I remember sleeping, like bouncing around really hyper and enjoying it, and then sort of having dinner, and then coming to like hours later thinking, where did the day go? What happened there? And obviously just finished eating, sat on the sofa and just gone spark out.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. And then I remember the drunken, I say I remember like waking up, that horrible feeling when you wake up the next day and you've had an argument and there's a horrible feeling in the house, but you don't really remember why or how it happened.
Yeah.
And just, wake up exhausted and miserable, and there's that hanging over you, but you can't even really get to grips with it because you don't know what it was about or anything.
Oh, that's awful. That is. I used to take, and before we had our loft extension done, we had the garage converted. So 9 times out of 10, I would pass out on the sofa, and in the morning I would go in there with a cup of tea, get into bed, and if she looked round at me and said anything, I thought, oh, I've got away with it. If she didn't, I knew I was in the doghouse.
Yeah.
And then I was laying there like that, trying to backtrack to try and piece together the night before or the afternoon before. And every now and again, you get the odd little sort of memory.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, I don't remember really past that. And that was about 6 o'clock. You know, it's those kind of things you've got to put down to remind yourself of how different it is now.
That's the funny thing with it, because as I say, if you think about it on just, apart from the fact, you do feel really good when you have that first drink, but only because it's anaesthetizing all the anxiety and exhaustion that it caused previously.
Yeah,
that's not a true kind of benefit anyway. But as I say, that lasts maybe an hour maximum. And the rest of it, you're just kind of stupefied. But the funny thing is, when we think back on it and we think about drinking at Christmas, we forget the 90% of it that actually even at the time isn't enjoyable, and just sort of focus in on that 10%. So like Christmas now, I wake up feeling good. I have that that buzz I used to get from the first drink the moment I wake up, because I haven't got all the anxiety and tiredness from previously. And then it's a nice day. And this is what I say to people. It's like people who are like, it might be your first sober Christmas and you're like biting your nails and really nervous about it. Stop for a minute. Okay, it's a day where most of us don't have to work. You get to sit around all day, getting presents and eating what you like and watching TV. There's nothing to not like about it.
You get presents all day in your house?
No, I don't. No.
You know what? You can actually watch the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special for the 29th time and remember it this time.
Yeah,
do you know what? I walked past a pub the other night, right? And I had mixed emotions about it. I did have a bit of FOMO, right? That's natural. But then I thought, do you know what? When I go back to my Christmas party, which was a couple of weeks ago now, 5 o'clock came, everyone was still really euphoric, chatting.
Yeah, yeah.
Afterwards, all the messages, oh, that's brilliant, blah, blah. And that was because of the genuine connection in the company that was there. With the Christmas thing in the pub, most of it's the excitement of actually you're going to escape from all the crap from work, indoors or whatever. And you're sort of like Mickey Flanagan bowling down the pub. Really, I'm going down the pub and whatever. And you get in there, after an hour, you do have a bit of a slump because you've had that initial high from the alcohol, and then you know really it's never going to be that high, is it?
No, no, no.
You get more and more drunk, a bit more aggressive. You probably then start to think about your argument you had indoors, and the more the night goes on, you think, oh, I've got to go home to that soon. You know, it's a nightmare.
It's a mess, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is. But I never used to go home, so there was one time, right, I went out with my son, and I knew he had to go. And I thought, I don't want to go home. So he dropped me at this pub in Battersea, right? And I knew it was a dump. So I thought I'd go in there. And it was like, you know, when you go into a bar in a Western and the ranch doors flung open and all the music stopped.
Yeah.
And everyone went like that. And I walked in really slowly with my cowboy boots on and the spurs spinning. Right. And I sat at the bar and I was pissed. Like I really didn't care. Right.
Yeah.
2 fingers of red eye. No, I didn't. I said, can I have a pint of Peroni or whatever? And she went, oh, minimum payment of £12 on the card or something.
Yeah.
Not all barmaids like that. And so I bought a Peroni and a double vodka, whatever. And I just sat there and carried on. Then I went to Sainsbury's and I bought 2 bottles of wine and a 12-pack of 10 yum yums. And I sat on the common against a tree overlooking Gordon Ramsay's house, literally ranting, going, you bastard, like that. And I fell asleep on the common.
Blimey.
Until about 4 o'clock in the morning. I could have been robbed.
Well, dangerous as well, because it's freeze. That's how people die, because they're drunk, so they're not waking you. Your body's not able to wake you up and say you're very cold, you need to get indoors. You just sleep. And
I mean, apart from the alcohol poisoning, because I must have had 16 pints, 2 double vodkas and 2 bottles of wine. I was literally necking it like the clappers and eating yum yums, which was all right. I got a bit more sugar. Maybe that's what kept me alive.
The yum yums. Yeah.
So many things. And we laugh, but things like that are, I don't know why I'm still here, to be honest.
Yeah, it's great. It's horrible thinking back on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember going on a work thing when I had to go to Margate to see a client, and went down there. I didn't really need to go to this meeting anyway, but I went down there early and I was kind of hungover from the night before. And of course I was down there, so I just thought I'll start drinking again. And I went into this bar. It wasn't even like like sometimes you get old pubs and it's kind of a bit grotty, but it's got character. It was one of these 1960s refabs things.
Yeah, horrible.
And I was in my suit and tie, and it was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I went in and the chap who owned the bar was eating his McDonald's breakfast, and I started drinking, and then ended up missing the train back and just staying drinking. And I got some drink for the train, and I ended up coming back. And you know, when you suddenly, because I fell asleep on the train, then woke up and thought, oh my God, I'm hammered. And I had to go home. It was only like 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
So I got like a sandwich and sat there in my suit on the floor, just on the grass, eating this sandwich, trying to sober up a bit. And then it's like, you think back and think, why did I bother? It was just...
I know. And then what makes me laugh about you, because you look so respectable half the time,
sometimes,
is that you see all these memes of people like boozing Ribena bottles, but you didn't care, did you? You just used to sit on the train with a can of cider.
Yeah, So the time I did that, I was in a bit of a weird place anyway, because I wasn't long back from Iraq, and I was in work one day, and I got a message saying a chap I was out in Iraq with, quite a close friend of mine, had killed himself. And it was like in the morning, and I was sat there, and you know, when you just think, oh my God, and I couldn't sit there. I just couldn't sit in this office. So I just sent an email to my secretary just saying, a friend of mine I was in Iraq with has just killed himself. I've got to leave for the day. And I just up and left.
Yeah.
And just wandered around the city drinking. And then woke up the next day. And to be honest, I don't know why I bothered going into work. Probably should have just rung in sick. But ended up going in and getting a can and just sitting on the train, suited up, drinking a can of K-cider.
Oh, honestly, we could talk about that all day, but I suppose people really aren't on here to listen to our antics. So,
Load of war stories, yeah. So, what's Christmas hold for you these days?
well, to be honest, I quite like Christmas Eve chilling out. I mean, me and them don't go to bed late. The kids do their own thing in a way. Give them some matches to play with, and no, that was a joke, by the way, everyone. I don't suggest it. Christmas Day, because they're 12 now, they don't really get up early.
Okay, well, that's a bonus, isn't
It
it?
is such a bonus.
Do you know, I'll ask your advice on this, because mine are 9 and 10, but they don't generally get up early. So what do you reckon about getting up early and going for a run, which I really want to do, but of course I shouldn't really be going downstairs because we should all go down together to see what Father Christmas has left. So do you think it's acceptable to get up early and sneak out for a run?
What time's early, though, to do?
It's probably going to be 5 or 6,
Yeah.
in and out.
Hey, you had a message from Father Christmas, it's got lost. To the next one, and you're helping a neighbour out. Make up an excuse. He's gone round Sober Dave's house to get some pants. Yeah, of course you can. I mean, do you know what I was going to say to you? I love going for a walk Christmas morning because I feel fresh. I can look people in the eyes and say, morning, happy Christmas, without hanging out of my arse and thinking, I can't wait to get home to have a bloody beer and start all again. And that's the best thing for me, is knowing that throughout the whole day, I'm going to feel pretty level, where with normally it'd be like downhill from, well, it's downhill as soon as I open my eyes, really.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you do then? So early night Christmas Eve, and then have you got people round on Christmas Day? What's the plan?
Well, yeah, we got, I think this COVID thing's 7 days now, which ends tomorrow for him.
Right,
So
okay.
we got a sister and that lot coming, man. It's a bit tricky because, you know, we got triplets and that, and they don't do anything together. Honestly, you'd think they would, but they don't. So it's going to be not the greatest Christmas days for them. But I've had a bad day with them, mate. But no, you know, I'm sure we're playing lots of games of Monopoly and
Joy.
real money. How about yourself?
I think we're going to be alone for Christmas. So we usually have my mother-in-law and brother-in-law coming over, but I think with the whole COVID thing, they might not be coming.
Yeah.
So it might just be us. So we'll just be around at home all day, which will be good. My oldest has asked Father Christmas for a bike. So if he gets that, we might be going out for a cycle or something on the day, which is nice, you know, just get out and have a little cycle around. And that's it. Yeah, we'll just be around at home all day. I think my wife's taking the boys around to see my mother-in-law at some point, which coincides with the 2 hours of Two Ronnies on ITV.
Yeah, four candles. But do you know what I was going to talk about as well? Like when we're drinkers, Boxing Day, the first thing you think about is how can I get away with drinking as much as I did yesterday? But then what's worse than that is the next day, because you know, really, you should not drink until New Year's Eve on paper.
Yeah.
You know, on paper, it's like, well, you know, I've drank Christmas Day and Boxing Day, really should have, but you don't. And you're scheming and plotting, and that's when you see your mate down the pub, or you think, I just need to go out and see someone, being cooped up for 2 days and whatever. And that whole sort of no man's land in between Christmas and New Year's a really funny time, isn't it?
You lose all track of time, don't you?
Yeah.
Even now, not drinking, it's a bit of a weird time. You kind of don't know what day it is, and it's just day after day of just munching on leftovers. But when you're drinking, it's even worse. I remember being in an AA meeting once, and this woman talking about how she was supposedly normal drinking, but then she hit Christmas when you kind of wake up, and she was like a glass of sherry in the morning and and then it carried on Christmas Day, Boxing Day. And then, that in between bit between Christmas and New Year, because it's still Christmas. So, have a drink, blah, blah, blah. And she came out the other side and just didn't stop.
Mm.
And it was almost like it had been hanging over her all that time. And it was that constant drinking over Christmas that just sent her over the edge.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean, that's the silly season. December is when you think about how many units you chuck in your body. It's terrible. And then you get to December the 31st, you go mad New Year's Eve, and then you go, do you know what, I'm doing dry Jan? And you wake up on the 1st feeling like death. Like your body is screaming out for alcohol, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you feel awful.
Yeah.
And every single awful feeling, fact, will be relieved by a drink.
Yeah.
Because that chemical imbalance, if you have alcohol, you'll correct that chemical imbalance immediately and feel loads better. It anesthetizes the tiredness.
Yeah.
And that's how it's addictive.
Yeah, and that's why I've done my dry Jan sober Dave groups now. I've had 8 groups of 32. That's, how many is that? 250 odd people sign up for it.
Yeah.
Right. All prepared to stop before Christmas, which is amazing.
Stop before Christmas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Because I said to them, why wait until then when actually you can have a head start for a couple of weeks, enjoy your Christmas, enjoy the no man's land. So when it comes to the first, when people are hanging, you've already gone through the hard bit, and you can actually begin to enjoy tasting your food more, sleeping better, looking better, when other people are just beginning that journey. And the way I hooked them into that was like, I like the idea, because most people have been drinking through lockdown and they've gone back to work and they're all like on it. We've been locked up, and now they're beginning to sort of feel the backlash of that now. Then silly season comes along, they're back on it, they're drinking indoors. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. So it's like, when is the right time? There's no right time apart from now. It's like, it doesn't have to be on the 1st of January.
No. I think there's 2 very important things to say about timing, because I've been doing that course, and timing's the last module of it. But the point with timing is, I know sometimes you get these discussions in the groups about, should I count days? Should I count days? Should I not count days? And I don't know if some people say, don't count days. You've just stopped, and that's it. It's done. You don't need to count the days. And I think it's an individual choice.
Yeah.
I think if you're using it as kind of like a celebration and encouragement, it's a good thing. But I think however you're using it, it's not necessarily a good indication of how you're mastering sobriety, if you like, because you might have someone who's done 365 days, but they might have avoided all social occasions, locked themselves away, been white knuckling it and just gritting their teeth and being miserable for a year.
Yeah.
But you might have someone who's done a month, but they've gone on holiday, they've done Christmas, they've gone out, they've done parties, and not only have they done them, but they've enjoyed them and really engaged with it. And I think the point is, time isn't necessarily an indicator of how strong your sobriety is, but experience is. Doing these things that you can never imagine without a drink, doing them without a drink is hugely encouraging. It gives you loads of confidence. But the biggest thing it does, it exposes alcohol for the nonsense that it is, because you're approaching it thinking, I can't enjoy Christmas without a drink. It's just not enjoyable without a drink. But if you do it in the right way, not only is it enjoyable, but it's more enjoyable. And as soon as you've done that day, it's like, striking your mortal enemy a blow that's going to kill it, because you start seeing through the facade. You start seeing it for the nonsense. Like, hang on, I can enjoy my life without a drink. If you can enjoy your life without a drink, then why are you going through all the hangovers and all the misery? And the second point that's very important, I think, with exactly what you've just said about how it's never the right time, what we need to be aware of when you're drinking regularly, when you stop, you go into the withdrawal. I've spoken about this a million times, but alcohol is a sedative. Your brain counters it by becoming oversensitive. So when the alcohol wears off, you've got this massive chemical imbalance in your brain that's best, or quickest at least, remedied with another drink.
Yeah.
When the alcohol starts to wear off, you start to feel timid, out of sorts. You want to hide away. Basically, you don't feel right. Now, it's natural when you don't feel right, when you don't feel well, you want to just hide away. You want to put off difficult things.
Yeah.
So, and what's the biggest, most difficult thing you're doing at the moment? Is stopping drinking. So as soon as you quit drinking, there's an almost instinctive urge to put it off because it just doesn't feel like the right time. And this is, I think, I can't say this enough to people. It's so easy to say, I will stop, but just not today. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what's a day? Well, a day is just a day, but 365 days is a year, and 3,650 days is a decade. And that's a decade that you will have spent tired and washed out and miserable, with brief periods of being semi-comatose by this drug. You can't put it off, because you put it off once, you put it off again and again and again and again and again. You just keep putting it off. At some point, you have to do it, and you have to ignore that very strong, as I say, almost instinctive thing to say, you've picked the wrong time. It's not, because it just feels, as soon as you stop drinking, it automatically becomes the wrong time, because your self-confidence plummets for a bit as that chemical imbalance kicks in.
Do you know how I look at it? Sorry, my throat. Yesterday I did a post about grief, right? Now, I relate it to a relationship breakup, because it's very similar, because you're in a relationship with alcohol, there's no doubt about it. So for me, it was 40 years with the same person. And when I met her, it was lovely. She was sexy. We were spending all weekend in bed, going on holidays, doing lovely things and whatever. Gradually, throughout the years and years, it changed. Then started becoming controlling, dominating, telling me what to do. Then she started making me feel shit about myself, affecting my mental health and whatever. And
marriage. Marriage perfectly.
But anyway, and then you start to think about, do you know what? Do I want to be in this marriage? Because it makes me feel shit. And then you go through that sort of period of like, what shall I do? What shall I do? And then you think, I'm going to leave her, but I'm not ready yet. I don't know how to do it. And that's the next stage. But then you go, do you know what? I am, but not today, because I can't handle it. And that goes on for ages, because you can't deal with it.
No.
You know? And if you look at it that way, you think, do you know what? What is my life going to be without this person? It's going to have all these benefits, but she is what I'm used to. So it's been institutionalized, right?
Yeah.
You like being in prison, William. Right. But then you decide it's over, right? And some people, they say, you're chucked, I'm not seeing you anymore. But I see them at the weekends, right? You're never going to get over that relationship, because they try and moderate in the week, and then they see him in the weekends. That's never going to work, right? But then some people say, you're dumped, I'm never going to see you again, but they still text them. That's when you let the voice. So you've got to shut the door, cut the ties. You leave the door open 1 millimeter, she's going to come around in her sexy dress and her perfume and go, ooh. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I had to, ooh. Well, that's...
Now we all know how to seduce Dave.
Yeah. Put your sober Dave pants on and come round and go, ooh. Oh. Anyway, that's my analogy. And it's true, right? But then after that, right, you have to go for the grief of being readjusting, readjusting your life. Oh, God. Readjusting your life. You're going to actually put this on YouTube after this. It's like a scene from the extras bloopers.
The problem with lives. Yeah.
Anyway, you have to go through that period. And the reason I said about the grief, because whenever you split up with someone, it can be a year later, it can be 2 years later, that you still think, and it's the fantasy, isn't it? Again, what we talk about the good bits in the, you think, oh, do you know what? Things aren't the same anymore. And all, I haven't got that and her nagging or whatever, but I've got the memories. Oh, this is hopeless.
Yeah. No.
I mean, that's a really good analogy, and I've just completely blown it by guffawing it for the last half an hour. Yeah.
No, I think that is the thing. I quite often say, if alcohol was how you imagine it after you've quit, you wouldn't want to quit in the first place, because you imagine it all sweetness and light. And if it was that, you wouldn't want to quit. It's that simple. It's remembering. So for me, the thing I always hated most was that 4 o'clock wake up in the middle of the night. I just hated it. And I hated it I never liked it, but I hated it most when we had children, because I just never slept enough.
So I can't do it. I can't do it. Sorry, mate. Oh, sorry, everyone. Whoever, I suppose there's no one watching now. Literally no one. They've all gone like that.
Yeah, enough. No, but
that is the worst.
So when I had kids, because we just didn't sleep enough, so sleep was so precious, and lying there awake, and when you could be asleep, it was just galling. And that's it's I always. Sorry, go on.
No, it's that whole thing in it when you get your like the horrendous. Do you know Em? I don't know if I've told you this before. She used to email me.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
I mean, weirdly enough, it worked, because the first thing I would do is look to see if I had any messages, WhatsApp messages, whatever. Yeah. And there were none. So I thought, oh, maybe I've got away with it. And then I checked my emails, and it's from her email. And then there's this message about that long, about repeating what I'd said, what I'd done, how I humiliate, all this business. I didn't remember any of it. It was like a different person. I wouldn't say that. I obviously have done.
Yeah.
It's awful, honestly. But I think for anyone that is considering dry Jan, it's can actually be a life-changing thing. Rather than, I think things have changed. And in the old days, it used to be, like we're going to do dry Jan and we're going to get absolutely blasted on February the 1st. I think people are more into lifestyle change now, and you know, still overindulge food-wise and at Christmas and stuff. But I know I did my group last year, and a lot of people are still sober from that.
So what is this you do? Is this like a Facebook group or something?
No, it's
talk about that
on Instagram. So basically, I've got my hashtag Dry Jan Sober Dave, right? And people join. So I've created chat rooms on Instagram. So on my messages, right? So I've got 8 groups in there, and people just chatting about where they are with their drinking, and you know, like forums and whatever. And then any post, any story or whatever they do, put hashtag Dry Jan Sober Dave, so it builds the amount of posts people can see, the motivation, the knowledge. Might put the odd Alcohol Explained book on there sometimes, and the handbook. You know, build that up. And I do lives every single night in January as well. So 7 o'clock most nights. So I got William Porter coming on. I've got loads of people, Suzanne Shaw, Terry Healy. I've got so many people. So people begin to program in tonight. I've got a live, because they're twiddling their thumbs, most people not knowing what to do. So 7 o'clock's quite a good time to do it.
Yeah.
And it just builds like that. And I encourage people throughout January to keep going, keep motivating each others, you know, because on your own, let's face it, mate, when you're drinking like we did, we feel alone anyway, don't we? You're on your own island, aren't you, with your thoughts?
Completely. Yeah, that's a funny thing, because you kind of, alcohol has this thing of like connecting with people and helping people bond, but it was never.
No, it was in the old days.
Yeah, to begin with, I suppose. But then, yeah, when it kind of, so I've probably told you this before, but I used to do this thing. So when we were first married and had young children, my wife didn't like being in the house on her own. So if I was out for the evening, she'd go round her mum's and sort of take the kids there and spend the night round there. So I'd have like these functions on at work, and it would be like really nice places up in the city and nice food and drink. And so I'd go along to these, and I just have in the back of my mind, there's an empty house at home. You can just go and sit at home. And I didn't particularly want to be there talking to people about work. So I'd have one or two and just leave and pick up a load of booze on the way home and just sit
isolated drinking.
Yeah.
Have you seen the video called Nuggets?
No.
It's on my page, right? It's of the bird. It's an animation.
I have seen it. Yeah, I have seen that.
And that's what that depicts it amazingly. That you start off and the first little golden nugget, he walks past, looks round and ignores it. Second one looks at it, stares at it, and then goes down and sips it. And then like the Red Bull, it goes like doesn't go it goes ring, right? And then but gradually throughout the road, becomes more and more dependent on it. And then the more it goes down, and that just depicts it, that at the end, it was just an absolute mess. And that's addiction. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. But that's one of the things I want to try and get through to people as well, because it gets worse, but it's never that good anyway. It's kind of, it's like with these things, when you're in the early stages, you kind of can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But you can only take or leave stuff you don't really want, that you can quite easily do without. So we kind of tend to envy people who can take it or leave it. But what you're really envying is the fact that they don't really like drinking. Because when you come across people who literally, you pour them a drink and they have a sip and put it down and kind of forget about it, they're not really enjoying it. They're kind of just going through the motions.
Or maybe they are enjoying it and they don't need it like we need it. Because like I was in a bar the other day and I saw, no, it's in Soho House on the Strand, right? And there's 4 or 5 blokes and 2 blokes left their pints and there was half a pint. I was like, are you serious? If that was me, I'd have grabbed a pint off the thing and down both the halves, right?
Yeah.
But what you say is really true about the cumulative drinking, right? Now, when I was younger, I would go out and I'd love going out and getting drunk. I never really thought about drinking the next day because I wasn't hooked into it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing. I could go to the pub on a Friday or Saturday and not drink all week, go to the pub on a Friday. But then I started going Monday, then I might go Thursday, then I might go and the more I did it, the more I wanted it. And I think because of genetically, I had that test done where my dopamine receptors are 40. I haven't. And my vitamin D levels are really low. So I'm not producing any serotonin at all. I have to work hard. So basically, I'm a miserable bastard, basically. And I have to work really, really hard. So I have to take vitamin D, 4,000 milligrams spray, B12, B6 and whatever, just to be still quite a miserable git, but I'm not as bad as if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But what alcohol did when I took it, I got that immediate high of dopamine, right? But then it would come down again because I wasn't producing that. So that's why I drank really, really quickly because I constantly wanted that high.
Yeah.
And I think like my wife, she'll have a glass of wine and make it last an hour. I'm like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
She genuinely, but I'll give you another example, right? Alcohol-free drinks. I can make that last. I had a mojito in Soho House the other night, and it was lovely, right? I had it all night, literally, because I was enjoying it.
I gulp,
Well,
still gulp them down.
okay then.
But doesn't it get warm if you leave it for ages?
Is it no heat? Oh, if it was
Right.
like a beer, but I get bloated really quick. So if I have an alcohol-free beer,
Yeah.
I had a lucky saint in this restaurant the other night, right? And I get sent them for nothing, and I had to pay £5 for this bottle of. I should have just put one in my bag
Yeah.
and got it out and whatever. Anyway, I drank that, and I thought I don't actually want another one.
I do, yeah. So I find with like drinking non-alcoholic, you have one or two and you actually don't want more, which is natural because you're not really designed, humans aren't designed to be
Uh,
pouring liters of liquid down their neck, because when you drink liquid, you wash out salt, which is one
yeah,
of the reasons why you wake up hungry and you want fast food when you've been
yeah,
drinking, because you've drunk
yeah,
loads of quantity and it's washed salts out, so you get salt cravings.
yeah. If there's any geriatrics watching this as well, like me, what I think about is, oh, I don't want to be up all night going to the toilet. Because trust me, if I have more than two, I'm like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, nothing coming out there. Have you got any geriatrics
Have I?
on the live?
I don't know. I can't see them from this side.
Oh, okay. I thought you could.
So,
Have we got any questions?
I'm not sure we've got questions. The only one that was the only question we had for the post I did beforehand was talking about Christmas,
Yeah,
which we've done anyway. It was because on the last live I was talking, so I kind of the with definitive situations, drinking situations like Christmas and holidays and all the rest of it, I've said to people to try and do a 3-stage process. So firstly, look at what you imagine of the situation. So for Christmas, it's, the mulled wine and coming to a nice warm house and have a hot mulled wine or red wine with the dinner or whatever. Secondly, think about the reality, because as I say, that isn't the reality. And if that is somehow a reality, it's probably 30 seconds out of 16 hours. It's not a big part of it. Think of the majority of it.
yeah,
And then the third thing is to look at the pleasure of the day. So sitting around relaxing, having some nice food and non-alcoholic drink and spending time with friends and family. And as part of that stage, actually think about the reality of how alcohol is going to impact that,
yeah,
because it's going to have a negative impact on it. Because even say best case scenario, you only have one or two. Well, if you have one or two on Christmas Eve, you're still going to wake up in the night on Christmas morning, because that's what alcohol does. So you're going to feel a bit washed out and anxious during the day. If you have a few, just a couple on Christmas, you're probably going to end up falling asleep after lunch and missing an hour or two of the day anyway. And then you wake up with that kind of horrible groggy feeling. And let's be honest, most people don't have one or two. Most people have quite a lot. And so the downside, so that's kind of that's
Look at the reality rather than the fantasy.
completely, yeah, and it's just not what we think it is. I mean, because like you get these Waitrose and when they send their magazines out for
Yeah.
all the Christmas food, and they just stick in like glasses of red wine and bottles of champagne and just
Oh, it's mad.
everywhere. It's just
I was down the tube station the other day and there's this poster and it's the perfect scenario. Women's size 10 dresses on and the men's size 10 dresses on. And, by a pool in Italy and they got their Camparis and what. That's bullshit.
I know it's totally
They should have posters up there of people in hospital with wires hanging out of them. And
yeah. Or just people drunk. That's what it is. Even not that end stage stuff, but just people when they've had the skinful, they just look.
you know what, mate? The other thing is as well, right? I'm a 6-foot lump, right? I was on the tube the other day. I'm not sure I like your face. It looked like you can start laughing again. I was on the tube the other day. It was after my party, right? So it was 6 o'clock coming back. And it was intimidating. I got to Victoria or Waterloo and everyone was drunk.
Yeah.
It was madness.
Mm.
And did you hear about the punch up at King's Cross just before?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was something happened, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
big punch up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's intimidating to
Mm.
be around because you know what's going on, but they're not really aware. I mean, I've been in
No.
situations before that you're really blasé about it because you're drunk and you're aggressive and
Mm.
you're not thinking straight. And that's when you can flip like that
Mm.
because you go from having a real laugh, but because of the chemical imbalances, you go like that straight
Mm.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's scary, mate.
Yeah.
And women. I saw a thing on the news this morning about a girl that racially abused a bouncer in this club, and she
Mm.
was a young 18-year-old girl and whatever, and he was really calm.
Mm.
She was spat in his face. She got 14 weeks in prison for it. But for a bouncer
Mm.
to stand there and look at that, it's like if you was an alien watching
Yeah.
that behaviour, you would think actually they've been let out for the day of the asylum. They need to get back in there quick.
Mm.
It's horrible to see.
Yeah, that's the trouble. So with alcohol, it anesthetizes, has a particularly intoxicating effect on a part of your brain that regulates emotion. So like you say, you're out and you might look at someone and you might catch their eye and think, you know, what are they looking at? And then it's just like you ignore it because your brain jumps in and it's like just calms everything down. But when it's anesthetized, it can't work.
Yeah,
So little things set people off and it just flies. And that's why there's this massive correlation between drinking and violence,
yeah.
all kinds of violent crime. Um, and it's ridiculous because people just don't appreciate it. You still now hear people saying, you know, oh, drinking brings out the real you. You lose your inhibition,
I
so
heard
you
it
do stuff.
today.
And it's like it's not the real
Yeah, I
you.
know.
You're drugging your brain so that it's not working correctly. It is not
Yeah,
you, and then you do ridiculous, stupid, awful things. And you know, for a lot of people, they're life-changing things.
yeah.
Because
I heard it
when I
this
was,
morning with that thing.
hmm,
He said, drunk people speak the truth. And it's not, it
no,
isn't.
no,
Because, for instance, that what I used to say to my wife that I didn't remember, I would never say that to her.
no, no,
And
no,
I didn't mean it. I
no.
really wouldn't.
Mm.
So that I hate that whole justification of
Yeah.
actually because she was probably I don't know if she's mortified or not. I don't know. She was probably one of the girls that was having a fight at King's Cross, to be honest. But it's awful.
And that's, as I say, that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, people are punished and rightly so. But the fact is, it changes lives because she's now got a criminal record, and that's going to impact her for. I mean, I'm not sure what kind of impact it will have,
I'll
but
tell you what, mate. I
afterwards,
remember I was going out with a
life
girl years
changing.
ago, right, when I was a pimply youth.
Hmm.
And we were out for the day, and this is before mobiles were out, right? That's how old I am. And I was on BT and I had a pager,
Okay,
right?
I remember pages. Yeah.
And it was you, urgent, urgent, urgent. And it was her home number kept coming up and up and up and up. So we rushed home in that, and her brother had got into a fight the night before,
Hmm.
right? The bloke punched him. He fell back and hit a moving car,
Dear
done
me.
his head in,
Yeah.
was in the Royal Free Hospital for months in intensive care, and he's still completely disabled. I know I
Mm.
see him in the supermarket near where I used to live, and the guy got away with it because the evidence was someone said he had a white jacket on, someone said he had a light blue jacket. And he was on remand for something.
Jesus.
But that drunken bloke who hit him is basically it. The whole knock-on effect is
It's massive, isn't
unbelievable.
it? Yeah, yeah. I used to do when I was in the parachute regiment, we used to do some charity work, taking kids from Great Ormond Street and just like taking them on adventure training weekends because you know some of them were like in quite a bad way, so they'd need like physical assistance to do stuff. And there was a girl there who was like paraplegic, And it had happened because her father or stepfather had come in drunk, lost his temper, and that was it. So, and it's just unbelievable the amount of damage it does. And yet still you're picking up like the Waitrose and the Sainsbury's magazines with bottles of red wine everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
the gaslighting, it's the mental, I don't want to come across like sort of this person that's like preachy, because I'm not.
I
But
am.
I'm kind of, yeah, I know, but I'm kind of, I want the truth out of it. I don't want to be one of these people. It's all bells and whistles and, oh, look at my skin, it's glowing, because there's a million things that are involved. And I put a picture of myself on the other day where I wasn't sleep. I look fucking terrible. I mean, talk about not that I look terrible, but it's about, you still have to deal with the worry. You still have to deal with the stress. You still have to get through occasions where you might be struggling in that, but that's still growth. I know you're a lot further than me, but I'm 3 years in a couple of weeks and that. But I've had a real tough time lately. But I always remember to wind it forward all the time. I remember the reality rather than, oh my God. Like I was down the Strand the other day and the All Bar One was there. I don't know why it's my weakness. It's that in the Witherspoons, because in the Witherspoons, no one judged me. And I kind of that in the All Bar One, because it's always you can just stand at the bar and that. And I looked at it and these blokes going, with their beers in that. And I had a bit of a twinge of, oh God, that could be. And then I thought, that wouldn't be me, because I will be absolutely legless by now on it and it'd be carnage indoors. And then I'll be on a complete bender tomorrow because I've fallen out indoors and that.
Yeah.
And then it went, because I reminded myself of what it meant to me, not the twinkly lights and the blokes laughing. It was the reality of actually I could end up outside Gordon Ramsay's house with 10 yum yums and frozen to death.
But the other thing there is, I think for me, what you're envying in that situation is not necessarily alcohol. It's just being with friends and having a laugh, which you can do without a drink anyway.
Which we did at my party.
Yeah, exactly.
And we remembered it.
Yeah, that's it. And this is the thing, I think. So I mean, I do get preachy, I suppose. But for me, I agree with you. It's about the truth.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but I have no concern. If someone wants to drink, that is entirely their concern. And I'm not going to tell them they should or shouldn't. That's up to them. But what I do take exception to is all the nonsense and lies around it. Like people saying, oh, it helps me relax. It's like, no, it doesn't. Or it helps me sleep. It's like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, but do you think that's education because we know more now?
Yeah, I think it is.
Done that. Like the fake beliefs of alcohol, we've all got sucked into that, haven't we? It's like I used to think, oh God, I've got a hard day tomorrow. I need a drink so I can sleep. Of course, I felt knackered the next day because I might have passed out, but I had no REM. All the fake, and this education that now we know so many things. I've studied lots of stuff about the body and in this book that I was given by someone, and which I promote regularly, Alcohol Explained. I know so much more now, and knowledge is everything. And sometimes if you can trickle that in, as well as encourage people to feel motivated and show them the benefits and bang the drum, it makes you feel more positive and
it's building that sense of community as well, isn't it?
And I think sharing your experience.
Yeah. And I think for too long as well, being sober has kind of had a negative spin to it. It's kind of, and I know it's easy to point the fingers of blame here, there, and everywhere, but the fact of the matter is, people saw alcoholics as kind of tainted and different. And if you stopped drinking, it was because there was something wrong with you. And the best you could expect from life is to kind of live one day at a time and sort of sit miserable while everyone else enjoys themselves, which I think is why, like Instagram accounts, for example, that you follow, just because it shows you, I mean, I've got images coming out my ears now of different sober Instagram accounts of all the positives of not drinking.
Yeah. Sober Dave's a good one, but moving on. Like I know there's someone that I can't name that uses a particular way of sobriety, which means going to a church and having a meeting. And they don't go out ever. And they've been sober for 4 years now. And they can't go out because of the triggers and that.
Yeah.
Now, I personally can't live like that myself, but it could work for that person because they got structure and they got routine, which and they are sober, and I don't think they'll ever drink ever again. So that's working for them.
Yeah.
But I suppose what we do is something different, that it shows other ways. Do you know what I mean? The power of community, the power of accountability, the power of education, sharing. You know, there's some incredible TED Talks out there, and so many resources out there. America now, even resources. Just bear with me. There's one thing I need to show some more. I mean, these are incredible. Absolutely. It's on the top shelf. And the podcast, One for the Road. I mean, and the Sober Dave app that's coming out soon as well. And his book. And sorry, am I making it all about me now?
No, go on. What's the app? You've got an app coming out of it?
I've got an app coming out, yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to have a few tutorials on, but I don't want to go too mad because you've got a course coming out, but we can share. This audience.
Yeah.
You're 30 years younger than me. And, you know, app, it's got meditation, it's got forums, it's got tutorials, it's got all my podcast videos on there. Like you and me chatting like this, the videos rather than the audio, live streams. It's got all sorts on there.
Fantastic.
£800 a month, but it's all right. We're saving money from drinking, so that's all right. Anyway, fantastic. I suppose we're coming to the end now.
I've just realised what time it is. Yeah, I was thinking,
how do we end this? Should we have a little tip?
For Christmas, just go and enjoy it. As I say, there's nothing not to like. The only way you can not enjoy Christmas is if you spend all day, instead of enjoying the presents and the food and the TV and the company, in a horrible internal debate about whether or not to take a poison that's going to ruin the day for you anyway. So don't get into that mindset. Alcohol will be around and you will be seeing it, but see it for what it is. Don't get sucked into the fantasy and I'd really like one, I could have one on just this occasion.
And that's just the ex luring you back.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh. Like texting you saying, do you know what? I'm waiting upstairs for you. Forget it. It'd be a nightmare. You wake up in the morning and look around and go, oh, for fuck's sake, I can't. Nah. I'm reading my... you know, that's what it's all about. If you haven't bought these books for Christmas, you can order on Amazon right now. William Porter, best book out there.
I think you'll get them for Christmas. They take about a month to arrive from Amazon.
Come round to Sober Dave's house, get some pants and these. Bingo. That's my Christmas tip.
Great Christmas. Thanks, Dave.
And also, you don't have to watch Morecambe and Wise, the two Ronnies, Wallace and Gromit. Watch this video back because it hasn't quite gone to what we expected, eh?
Never does it? No.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely Christmas.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.